It was just 5 short months ago when I first met with commercial photographer and filmmaker George Barnes about the issue of geoengineering and its potentially grave impact on millions of people all over this planet. Since that time, George's landmark documentary film Look Up and award-winning app Skyder Alert have served as integral tools in spreading the awareness of geoengineering, getting us one step closer to halting this large-scale program. In this, our second talk, we discuss some of the newer features of geoengineering, including night spraying and voided clouds, as well as some of the extreme weather that can be traced directly back to heavy spraying just prior to the weather event. With these all too obvious features, the reality of geo or climate engineering is growing ever more present in our daily lives. But what can we do about it? Listen in as we discuss some action steps that each and every one of us can take right now. George, it's great to have you back on Conscious Inquiry Radio. We met back in February in Los Angeles. I can't believe it's been, 5 months now?
Time flies.
It sure does. At the Conscious Life Expo, lots of activity going on there, and kudos to you while there. I believe you picked up another award for your great documentary Look Up. So welcome back. When we met, we were sitting down with Dane Wigington, as well as Dr. Doug Levine, about the dynamics and the dangers of climate engineering. And, I was thinking about it. The gravity of this issue, George, is increasing, it seems, by the day. And the need to do something is ever more urgent. So I thought we'd discuss today primarily action steps, things that people can do to bring more attention to this issue and ultimately work toward getting it stopped. But before we go into all of that, for those that may not have heard the first interview, which was great, that we did with George and Dane and Dr. Doug, or who may not be familiar with your great work on this issue, tell us, if you would, how you became aware of what is called, among other things, climate or geoengineering.
Well, Alexis, first, thanks for having me back on the show. I really appreciate it, and I can't believe that it has been 5 months. It seems like it was yesterday.
Yeah, sure does.
But climate engineering is something that I stumbled across by accident while filming, actually testing some camera equipment. We were filming a time-lapse just to test the time-lapse rig, and we accidentally played the footage backwards, and we saw that the entire overcast sky, when played backwards at high speed, was being created by these jets flying in a grid pattern. Mm-hmm. I'm a mainstream, regular, not a conspiracy guy. I'm pretty well balanced, and we're in the edit suite, and then I have a news producer that works for me and my editor, and we're looking at this footage, and our jaws just dropped when we saw that all the cloud cover of the sky was a direct, obvious result of these airplanes flying in a grid pattern. And the test was actually over my home. Mm-hmm. So that even got me more concerned because, I know that I'm not in a grid pattern flight path here.
Right.
And after actually Amy, the news producer, did the research on it and came back very, very quickly with probably a 4-inch dossier on climate engineering and geoengineering. And she said, wow, you're really not going to like this. And that's basically how I came to be aware of it, was through time-lapse photography. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as anybody does any research or Googles climate engineering or geoengineering, you can see the mountain of data that exists online about this science. Climate science is a real thing. There's 100 bills before the House and Senate right now on weather modification and climate engineering.
Right.
They're always looking for, okay, here's the extreme weather, look at this crazy weather that's happening. But climate engineering is designed to create extreme weather. That's what it does.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, yeah, I'm thinking, and I'm sure many in our audience, listening audience, are already at least somewhat familiar with this anomaly that's been occurring, according to Dane Wigington, over 60 years. But as I said, the issue is becoming more, I would say, grave as far as the recipients of the spraying is concerned. And I think the measures by which they're using to do this spraying has also increased. So there is a lot of data out there. But let me ask you, as you're going through your research, it said that there are patents that are available for the public to see, not necessarily do they want the public to see it? I don't know. But are some of these things available, literally patents on the technology that they're using?
Yeah, there's a tremendous number of patents. Hughes Aircraft has a patent on it. Wells box seating for reduction of global warming is another patent. I mean, they're available. There's a lot of information. It's not. I don't believe it's quite a big secret, but I do think it's not in anyone's interest to actually broadcast that these programs are taking place, or that they even exist, or that the science even exists. But with just a little bit of research, you can see, like on the NOAA website, if you search geoengineering on the NOAA website, you'll see the unregulated science of geoengineering and climate engineering is right. They have a whole discussion document, front page.
Isn't that something?
These documents are there. They're not, designed to be hidden. There's bills before Congress. If you watch the film, look up, you'll see we've got, probably 100 documents excerpt and featured in the movie. It's also on the SkyderAlert.com website, and Dane has a whole link on geoengineeringwatch.org that just brings you to all of the government documents. So, I mean, they are absolutely available, including the Air Force has a document that's called Owning the Weather in 2025.
That's right. I'm familiar with that. Yeah. Okay. I find that whole thing a bit perplexing as well, George. The fact that, they say that the truth is hidden in plain sight, and I suppose those that follow that motto have been doing it to a T for a long time. And yet, I have watched some other films that address climate engineering, geoengineering issue, and in one of them, I believe it was Michael Murphy, What in the World or Who in the World is Spring, right?
Yes.
Where he took some footage of his time on the Hill, on Capitol Hill, kind of doing a sort of man on the street or man in the in Congress interviews to get the take from our legislators on the Hill as to what was going on, and they all seemed oblivious to the fact that anything like this is happening. So you've got this denial in your face and the information in your face at the same time. What gives here?
Well, maybe a couple of years ago when he was making that film, I would believe that the legislators don't really know about it, but now we are getting tremendous feedback from legislators by using the Skyder Alert app. We just had a sellout meeting in Redding, California that Dane spearheaded, and it was with the EPA, and I can send you a link to that. But it was over 400 people showed up. The mainstream news covered it.
Really?
And it's a huge deal. And there's a 45-minute video clip. I can send you a link to that as well.
Wow, please
of
do.
The actual event.
Yeah.
And we had a similar one in Arizona. I want to say beginning of June. Same thing with the legislator there. We've got 2 U.S. senators replied back requesting meetings. We've had meetings with the lieutenant governor in California. So the awareness overall is what's driving the politicians and the policymakers to pay attention to
respond. Yeah.
To respond, and also to be aware of it, because I actually do believe, I'm not an anti-government guy, I do believe that 2 or 3 years ago, most legislators did not know of the phrase climate engineering or geoengineering. Today, I don't feel that way. Today, I believe that message has become clear, and they are all aware of it as these weather modification and climate mitigation bills come before them.
That's interesting. And yet there seems to be such an inconsistency. I mean, I'm not trying to poke a hole in their authenticity or lack thereof, but again, if this is a technology that has been going on, of course, not to the extent that it is now, but in essence for 60 years, how is it that even some of them were not aware, whatever euphemism they used for it, whatever terminology they used. So anyway, I don't want to stay too much on that, but here, the good news, I'm glad...
Well, no, let me give you my thoughts on that, because I question that, and in my research I was wondering the same thing. The way I see it is that it hasn't because it's a solution or a proposed solution, you can put the solution in quotes, I don't think the climate engineering has been something that's been on the forefront or the top of mind of legislators. Where if you say, oh, extreme weather or climate mitigation, they think, oh, sure, we should do something about the hurricanes. What could we do about hurricanes? You can prepare, you can do X, Y, and Z. But it hasn't really been until recently, with what appears to be tremendous amounts of experimentation, that now, okay, one of the things that we can do to offset carbon emissions or to offset hurricanes or to offset extreme weather is to create climate engineering, implement climate engineering. I think up until very recently, it's been in the development or experimentation stages where it hasn't been top of mind from a phrase of climate engineering or geoengineering to the legislators. That's my personal feeling.
Okay, fair enough. I think that's fair enough. And look, at the end of the day, I think what we need to do is, let's assume that once they are fully aware that they indeed will serve the constituents as they should by addressing this issue. And it sounds like we're making some inroads there, so that's a good thing. Wow.
Yep.
Since February, George, since we last talked, it sounds like there is a bit of a groundswell going on here. So needless to say, I think things like your app, which we're going to get into excruciating detail about, are working. That is fantastic. But, listen, you and I talked for quite a while offline before we started our official chat, and we're recording this. It'll be about 2 weeks prior. Well, the recording will air about 2 weeks after this date, but I wanted, for the record, today's date is July 28th of 2014. We here in the Boston area have had some extreme weather consistently, like many other parts of the country, but we have been getting slammed with heavy monsoon-style rains. This morning was one of those days, and it ended up with a tornado touchdown pretty much in the Boston metro area. Now, you and I had a conversation. I told you about this. You quickly looked up. I want you to tell the folks what you did, and you showed me an image, a very disturbing image of data that you were getting right around this time, maybe a little prior to, that showed that there were a multitude of lines in the sky. So, a very, very aggressive spraying campaign prior to this. Talk about that a little bit.
Okay. Well, and that brings up another example that I want to show you, a similar experience that I had last year, and that is the Skyder Alert website and mobile app. Basically, first I got to explain the way it works.
Please.
So you can understand
Yes.
what I'm going to say. Skyder Alert is a mobile app that you can use from your iPhone or Android device. And when you see those long white streaks in the sky that don't dissipate, you take a picture of it. And based on your geolocation, it will send that along with a petition to the elected legislators or officials in that particular area.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, it also puts a pin on the map on the SkyderAlert.com website. So if you click on the map link, you can see where all the submissions are coming in from around the world. And what we're seeing is a patterning of submissions and extreme weather. Now, I'll send you a couple other photos that I have that are just bizarre. And I noticed this last year. I was checking to make sure the map link was working on the website.
Mm-hmm.
Clicked on it. Okay, whatever. I saw it. And I saw it was a really bizarre pattern along the East Coast where I was at the time. And that's fine. The next thing I was doing, I was shooting the next day, so I went to check the weather. And I saw the weather map was almost identical in prediction for what I had seen the app users submit.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, wow, that's really coincidental. And then it happened again and again and again. And now if you look, I don't know how you'll handle posting it, but the photo I showed you showed a tremendous amount of persistent contrail spraying activity in the sky surrounding the areas where there were unseasonable tornadoes in the Boston, Connecticut area.
Yeah, that's right. And
and this is the pattern that just appears over and over and over. And even the White House has come out with a concept. They want to implement a climate map where they're mapping extreme weather patterns. And I have to tell you, I'm predicting it's going to be very similar to the Skyder Alert model.